Hello everyone, Jonathan Schlack, EAS&Weather here with a severe weather update. We have two slight risk areas and there's one that's very long. The first slight risk area I'm going to show you is down here. Right across southeastern Utah, southwestern Colorado, northeastern Arizona, and the extreme northwestern corner of New Mexico. So, they already have one of the slight risk areas. We have another slight risk area today that covers central Montana, going over through southeastern eastern Wyoming, far northeastern Colorado, northern and western Nebraska, much of southern South Dakota, going over here to northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, and southwestern Wisconsin. That's where we have the slight risk area that's very long in length. And we have a marginal that covers much of Montana, most of Wyoming, much of Utah, much of Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, and a lot of Colorado, parts of Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, parts of central Minnesota, central Iowa, far northern Illinois, and parts of Wisconsin. And going over to the northeast, we have a marginal that covers southeastern Michigan, northeastern Ohio, most of Pennsylvania, which does not include southeast Pennsylvania. It goes through northern New Jersey, much of central and southern New York State, all of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, most of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, and far southwestern New Hampshire. So where we have another marginal in place. Going over to each risk, we have two areas where we have a 5% chance of an isolated tornado today. There's one area of a 5% chance that we have an isolated tornado today that covers central Montana. We have another area where we have a 5% chance of an isolated tornado in southeastern South Dakota, extreme northeastern Nebraska, northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, and west central Wisconsin. That's where we have another 5% chance of an isolated tornado today. And we have a 2% chance of an isolated tornado today that covers central Montana, eastern Wyoming, southern South Dakota, extreme northeastern Colorado, northern Nebraska, northern Iowa, central Minnesota, and parts of central and southwest Wisconsin. We have another area that has a 2% chance of an isolated tornado in southeastern Utah, southwestern Colorado, the far northwestern corner of New Mexico, and northeastern Arizona. So, going over to the wind, we have a 15% chance of damaging wind gusts to 58 miles per hour higher in central Montana, eastern Wyoming, far northeastern Colorado, northern and western Nebraska, southern South Dakota, northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, and southwestern Wisconsin. We have another area where we have a 15% chance of damaging wind gusts to 58 miles per hour higher in southeastern Utah, southwestern Colorado, the extreme northwestern corner of New Mexico, and northeastern Arizona. And we have a 5% chance of damaging wind gusts of 58 miles per hour higher in parts of a lot of Montana, a lot of Wyoming, most of Utah, most of Colorado, northwestern New Mexico, much of Arizona, central Nebraska, central South Dakota, central Minnesota, central Iowa, far northern Illinois, and parts of Wisconsin. We have another area where we have a 5% chance of damaging wind gusts to 58 miles per hour higher in eastern Michigan, northeastern Ohio, most of Pennsylvania, which does not include southwestern and southeastern PA. It also includes northern New Jersey, central and southern New York State, all of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, most of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, and southwestern New Hampshire for that 5%. So, going over to the hail, we have a 15% chance of large hail of 1 inch in diameter or larger in central Montana, eastern Wyoming, extreme northeastern Colorado, northern and western Nebraska, southern South Dakota, northwestern Iowa, and southwestern Minnesota. And we have a 15% chance of... Oops, don't know why this just updated on me. But we also have a 15% chance of hail 1 inch in diameter or larger in southeastern Utah, southwestern Colorado, extreme northwestern New Mexico, and northeastern Arizona. And we have a 5% chance of hail 1 inch in diameter or larger in much of Montana, much of Wyoming, much of Utah, northern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, a lot of Colorado, central Nebraska, central South Dakota, northern Iowa, far northern Illinois, the southern half of Minnesota, and much of Wisconsin. And if you look at the black dashed areas across central Montana, that's where we have a 10% chance of seeing hail of 2 inches in diameter or larger. Again, that's in the black dashed areas across central Montana. So, going over to the summary, scattered strong to severe storms are expected from parts of the northern high plains into the upper Mississippi Valley, mainly this afternoon and evening. Scattered strong and severe thunderstorms are also possible across the Four Corners vicinity. A few strong storms may occur from parts of the lower Great Lakes to southern New England. So, anyway, stay safe in the affected areas today, and I'm going to have a separate video that's going to cover the Day 2 outlook soon. I'll have a separate video that covers the Day 2 outlook pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. But regardless, stay tuned in the affected areas both today and tomorrow, and stay tuned for the Day 2 outlook, which will come very soon.